Q&A and check-in. Today we're going to be, of course, as the name suggests, doing a Q&A call, but also a check-in where we do have a topic of discussion for today. And the topic of today's discussion is talking about common and uncommon barriers to hitting our health goals. And the reason why I decided to have this as a topic is a lot to do with the timing of the year, right? It is nearly the middle of December, and we have a very big date coming up, January 1st, which, of course, as many of us know, is aware of, especially in the United States, it's a time where we are making New Year's resolutions, setting goals for ourselves. And I want us to be kind of, for those of us who typically tend to always be setting health goals, I want this discussion to focus on barriers that interfere with us hitting those goals, so that as we're creating new health goals for the new year, we're coming at it with a more clear lens, a clear perspective of why maybe it happens to be that we're continuously making the same goals. Like we haven't been able to seem to get much traction on the goals that we keep setting year after year. Also, for those who are creating new goals, it's a good way to see, what are my potential barriers to me hitting those goals. So welcome in. If you are joining in, please don't hesitate to put your where you're watching from in the chat. Do know that you can only enter the chat if you're subscribed. So if you're not subscribed and you want to join along in the chat throughout this session, please go ahead and subscribe. And I believe it takes about 5 minutes or so before you're actually able to access the chat, but that's how you will do it. And as far as the Q&A portion, members of my membership community are able to message in throughout the week any questions or challenges that they're having that they want me to address in these live sessions. And those questions take priority in these calls. And then if there's time remaining, usually these lives will go for no more than 30 minutes. At the end of it, then we can answer any questions that come through the chat. So as far as member questions this week, I don't have any lingering questions from members within my membership community that I haven't already just immediately addressed throughout the week. So with that being said, if anyone comes in from the membership community and they are wanting to ask questions, they can do so. Just go ahead and pop them in the chat and we can still talk about them. If your memory was jogged and you just decided you have something else you want to talk about, you can go ahead and do so. All right, so, and again, for anyone else who's joining, who's not within my membership community, you want to be subscribed so that you can get into the chat. Okay, so we're gonna dive right in. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and dive in. We got a couple of interesting spam messages, and I'm gonna try to ignore as we continue on and talk about the topic of today's discussion, which is common barriers to hitting health goals. Okay, so we're gonna talk about some common and uncommon barriers. We're gonna start with the most common barriers, okay, and talk about those, and then lead into some uncommon barriers. The first most common barrier that's interfering with us hitting our goals, our health goals, but just goals in general, is a perceived lack of time. You're gonna see me looking down because I made some notes for this live session. So thank you very much. I don't want to butcher your name. Getachu. Thank you so much for the compliment. Okay, so for the first one, it's the most common that I hear, and the most common amongst many of us is a lack of time. We are all so busy. For the most part, we are all so busy. We have busy schedules between work, life, parenting, our kids' schedules, our kids' activities. We're very busy. And it can be hard to prioritize our healthy habits, things such as meal prep, right? To help us with our consistent healthy nutrition, or prioritizing time to exercise, even prioritizing our sleep. There is this feeling of lack of time and also stress associated with that. Okay, so that's one of the most common barriers. If that is one of your barriers, hit message in the chat if you're like, yeah, amen, that's me. And that's one of the, I know for me, that is also a big barrier. The second one is a lack of motivation or consistency. Now, this one is big, right? There's often an initial excitement when there's something new that we encounter or we discover that seems like it can be promising towards helping us hit our health goals in particular, right? So for example, say a new health challenge or the gym membership, right? First of the year, you sign up for a year-long membership because it's exciting. It's like, okay, if I get to the gym, I can get to my goals, and you're really excited and motivated in that initial phase, right? Or joining a membership, joining a new workout program. All these things can have this initial pulse of excitement that helps you with motivation. But then, the dust settles and that initial excitement kind of fades and you're kind of just stuck in the muck of it, right? You're stuck actually doing the work. So that is one thing, once that initial excitement fades, it can then trail off and lead to inconsistencies and therefore creating a barrier for us hitting our health goals. Okay. And the big thing with the lack of motivation and consistency is really fine tuning your why. What is your motivation for making these changes, right? And that's what's really going to help you get through that phase where you're, it's easy. It's easy when you first got that initial excitement, but then as that slump fades, you got to focus on something deeper than that initial excitement, right? And that's your why. For us, it can be a number of reasons. Some of us are doing it for our current health. We want to prevent chronic conditions. Some of us are doing it because we have a chronic condition. We're making these changes because we want to improve it or reverse the condition. We really want to try to, expand our longevity and our health span. For some of us, it's because we want to be around to see our grandkids. We want to be able to be with them through those times. We want to be with our kids throughout those big milestones, walking them down the aisle, things like that. And for some of us, we're Christians and we want to steward our health. We want to honor God by stewarding our health and our bodies, and living a healthy lifestyle is a part of that. So it's up to you to determine where's your why, where is that motivation coming from, right? And keeping that really center mass during those periods where you feel like that motivation is waxing and waning. All right. The third one is another big one, and an area where I tend to focus on tremendously, and it's poor planning, right? They say, what is it? Proper preparation prevents poor performance. I love alliteration, so therefore, there you go. But planning is a big one. We can, set these lofty goals, it's great. Goal setting is great. But if we don't have a plan for how we're going to achieve them, it really does set us up for failure, or just set us up to be unsuccessful. So that's a big one. The next one is that I commonly see or common hear about is unrealistic goals, right? And part of this can be, we're setting these overly ambitious or vague goals. They're not specific enough. They're not really catered to you and where you're at. Sometimes we're really comparing ourselves to other people, and that, they say comparison is a thief of joy, right? You're comparing maybe your body type, your situation to someone else's, right? A 25-year-old with no kids, not in a demanding career, or even if they are in a demanding career can do, their lifestyle looks a little different than if we're in our 30s and 40s with, married with kids, or just with kids and just a busier schedule. So things look different. So really a big thing here is trying to prevent ourselves from comparing ourselves to others. When it comes to creating our goals, it really is us taking an introspective and personal look at where we are right now. Where am I right now, and how can I advance myself 1% better each day, right, or each week, or by advancing yourself or improving yourself by intervals of 1% with each goal you're setting, and trying not to compare to other people. Let's see. The big thing here is meeting yourself where you are, and when we compare ourselves to others, we're trying to meet ourselves where someone else is. If we meet ourselves where we are and really focus on our own personal improvement, that can help set us up a little bit better when it comes to setting more realistic goals that are actually appropriate for us. All right. And the next common cause of setbacks and achieving our health goals is related to stress. There's a lot of emotional or work-related stress that can really derail our health habits. It is really hard to try to focus on, hello, hi, thank you so much. It is very hard to focus on getting to the gym on time, or meal prepping when you are overly stressed, when you are working so hard. Either you have a demanding career, your family life, stressors, other things are interfering with your emotional state that can really create a barrier to you focusing on your health habits. And that is, it's a reason why it's so important to prioritize our stress management, prioritize stress reduction when possible for things that we have control over, but really finding ways to have an emotional and to fill our emotional and spiritual cup. And again, that's you taking an introspective lens and looking inwardly and seeing what are those things that do it for you. Is it journaling? Is it praying? Is it getting more involved with your church? Spending time with family? If those are the things that fill your emotional and spiritual cup, it's going to be so important, like I said, to prioritize it so that you are not as prone to having that stress and emotional stress be a barrier to you hitting your health goals. All right. I'll go over a couple more that I had written down here for as far as barriers, common barriers, and then we'll transition over to like some of the more uncommon barriers. And the reason why we're talking about barriers again is because we're coming up on a very big date, calendar date, January 1st, right? New Year's, where many of us are focused on creating new goals, New Year's resolutions, or some of us are just, it's a new year, it's another day, yes, and we have goals that we haven't achieved yet, and we're really just trying to, maybe we're seeing that we're not making as much headway as we thought we would, and or we're stuck, we're hitting plateaus, not just weight loss plateaus, but just plateaus in our progress towards whatever health goal we have achieved for ourselves. Identifying these barriers, sometimes we have these barriers and we haven't really identified them. We don't really know what it is that's getting in the way. So having this open discussion about common and uncommon barriers will allow, hopefully, at least one of you to identify, okay, yes, that is what's happening with me. That is what's going on. So that then you can create a smarter plan to help specifically target that challenge or that barrier so that you can move past it and then lead further towards hitting your goals. That is the point of today's discussion, as we're talking about common and uncommon barriers to hitting our health goals. And again, please feel free, once you're coming in, tell us where you're coming from. If any of these barriers are resonating, feel free to put it in the chat or just keep it to yourself. It's all right. That's okay. You don't have to announce it if you don't feel comfortable doing so. All right. So moving on. We talked about stress. The next one is kind of in line with something we mentioned before, but it's social pressures. So sometimes, like, our friends and our family groups can have behaviors, whether they're healthy or unhealthy, that can interfere with our behaviors, right? Because we are around them we're around these individuals and we love these individuals and we want to enjoy time with them. Sometimes, if they're encouraging behaviors that are not in line with your health goals, it can create a barrier for you to do it, right? So, things such as eating out often or, occupying time to where you can't work out or things of that nature. So that is another common barrier that I see that can impact your ability to focus on your goals. And that's an area where it's really important sometimes to let people know, especially the people who are closest to you, who you're going to be interacting with. Let them know what you're working towards because, supportive family and friends, they want to do that. They want to support you. They don't want to make it harder for you to achieve your health goals. Most of the time, if it's a healthy relationship, they want to help support you, and they don't want to be unknowingly sabotaging your efforts. All right. The next one is, I'm going to hit on, it's going to be the last one that's more in the common bucket, but it's inconsistent sleep. I know it's kind of one of those things where we're so ingrained, it feels like in the society to just produce, work, sleep when you're not here anymore type of thing. But sleep is so important. It's not something that should be as overlooked as it often is. It's important especially if you're someone who's dealing with health conditions, insulin resistance, metabolic health concerns. Sleep is very vital. We need it. And it's something that should be prioritized. And if you're in a state of perpetual lack of sleep, one, when it comes to hitting your exercise consistency, I would never tell you to prioritize exercise if you're not getting good sleep. It just doesn't make sense. You got to focus on the first need, which would be sleep at that point. So, and then also if you're tired, you're overtired, it also contributes to more stress. It can be hard to focus on planning things like meal prep. You become stressed, so then you may stress eat, right? So again, sleep is a cornerstone and an area that we really should be prioritizing and protecting, to be honest. All right, so those are more of the common reasons and common things that are creating barriers to our success in hitting our health goals. And I want to just touch on a few maybe not so common barriers and see if maybe some of you resonate with those. And if so, then it can be identified and we can try to figure out a way to mitigate that as a barrier moving forward. Okay, this one, maybe uncommon, but it's perfectionism. This area, I remember this one for me was a big one when I was first starting out on my health journey. Feeling like if you can't do something perfectly, then why not do it at all, right? It's not even worth it, right? If you can't do it perfectly. For an example, a big one area where this happens, a big health goal that this often interferes with is nutrition, right? So we may think of like, okay, I'm not going to eat sugar. I'm not going to eat carbs. I'm not going to eat after 6 p.m., things like that. Like you have all of these goals or rules to how you want to eat. And then the moment that you break that rule, the moment you have a cookie at work, you didn't do it perfectly. So now that just derails your entire day. And then you're on it can snowball. And so that's your whole day. Then that's the whole next 2 days. And then that's the whole week. And then it can put you into this slump where it's been several weeks and you've kind of fallen off of your health routine. But that's rooted in perfectionism, and it doesn't have to be, right? When it comes to that in particular, I always encourage like either my clients or just people I'm talking to who are telling me about this, or even for myself, reminding myself that it's about the next decision. What is the next decision I can make that is getting me towards my health goals, right? And okay, I had the cookie, all right? That's the history. So what's the next step moving forward? It doesn't have to be perfect. This is not, none of it is about about perfection. It's about progress. And I know you hear this, like it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And it's true. It's true. But sometimes it can be really hard for us to actually get it in our heads and believe it. Then there's overwhelm with too much information. And I say that knowing as I'm listing off a list of common barriers, right? But what I mean is there's a lot of information out there about how to be healthy, like what you should be doing. And it can cause like this analysis paralysis, or just it can, even though there's so much information, it can still create a lot of confusion. So there's confusion with conflicting advice, or over researching health strategies can cause us to be stagnant, be still, and not make any movement. And of course, therefore, create a barrier to us achieving our health goals. And then there's fear of change or fear of success. Now, this one might not be as common, which is why it's in the uncommon category. But sometimes we create an identity for ourselves. Oftentimes we create an identity for ourselves based on our current state, right? So and it can look like so many things, right? You can do it based on a person's weight, a person's own health history, medical history, or family history, right? So for example, I'll talk about family history. For example, say if diabetes runs in your family, type 2 diabetes runs in your family, high cholesterol, hypertension, those things run in your family, and you start seeing your health declining, it can be a thing of, well, that just runs in my family, therefore I have that's just my fate as well, right? And then if you're thinking about creating health goals, like, well, I don't really want it to be my fate, or I have hypertension, or I have high cholesterol, or I have type 2 diabetes, but I don't want it. So you create goals, but deep down it's kind of ingrained, it's part of your identity, where if you were to achieve that goal, it would mean that, yes, it runs in your family, but it doesn't have to be running in you. It doesn't have to be your health history, right? So there can be these identity shifts that happen, and the fear of success, or fear of becoming of achieving the goal and what that then means for you, how you'll then have to shift your identity once you've achieved that goal. That can also happen when it comes to thinking about your weight. If you're someone who's always struggled with your weight and you have a goal of weight loss, what will it then mean if you do achieve that healthy weight that you're striving for? How will that change your identity? And that can be really hard to wrestle with sometimes, and it can cause us to maybe unknowingly, subconsciously self-sabotage. So it's something to think about and be aware of. Okay. And then there's the all or none thinking, which really coincides with that perfectionist. Like, if I can't do it right, if I'm not gonna, this one really comes in when we're really habit stacking too fast. You're gonna fix your nutrition, make it perfect, or improve on your nutrition habits. Also improve on your fitness habits. I don't know why I'm doing air quotes, but improve your fitness. You have a goal of improving your nutrition, getting that in order, right? Getting your fitness in order, getting your sleep in order, getting your stress reduction in order. Like you're all or none. You're gonna fix it all or not at all, right? So in a way, it kind of relates to parallels like the perfectionistic attitude, but to a different angle where you're just really overwhelming yourself. It can lead to burnout really quickly, and it can cause discouragement. So that's where it really is important to learn how to meet yourself where you are and create goals that incrementally get you steps closer versus trying to jump from where you are to immediately where you want to be. That can set us up for pitfalls and sabotage our efforts, even with the best of intentions. Something to think about. Okay, and then this last one, I don't know if it's uncommon or not, but overemphasis on scale weight. This one is a kind of a pet peeve maybe of mine. I understand the weight on weight, the emphasis on weight, and how I often see people, they create their goals based on a number on a scale. And the scale, as you know, or may not know, the scale can be quite a liar sometimes. Like, it can really be misleading for various factors that I won't go into in this video, but the scale is not the best indicator of progress, and it's really important to learn how to identify other areas that indicate that you're moving in the right direction. So how you're feeling, how you're sleeping, what do your labs look like? How's your metabolic health? How's your metabolic health on an internal level? How you're feeling, and things like that. So we'll touch a little bit more on that one in a bit, but that is a big area that can cause us to become derailed, discouraged really quickly when we see we are putting forth so much effort, but that darn scale, that number is either not budgeting enough, or going up, right? So that's a big one. All right, so with all this, I've touched on some common and uncommon barriers that are hindering us or impacting our ability to hit our health goals or reach our health goals, right? And again, I said it's because we are moving into a new year when many of us are going to be creating new goals or trying to revise and stick to our ongoing goals that we just haven't quite achieved yet. And I want us to go into this season, this new year, with a good direction, a good focus. And for some of us, it's just a matter of resetting things, right? So I have started or created a 7-day challenge that we're going to be starting January 1st. Okay. Now, this isn't like maybe a typical challenge when you think of the word challenge, right? Like 30 days of no sugar challenge. It's not anything like that. 30 days of physical activity. It's not just that. Or just like 30-day squat challenge. It's nothing like that. So I'm going to tell you what it's about, right? So this challenge is designed to help you build sustainable habits, healthy habits, right? With our nutrition, our sleep, our physical activity, our mindset. And each day we're going to focus on a specific theme, and there's going to be clear and specific actionable goals. They're simple. These steps are simple. They're impactful. This challenge is really meant for the person who does have a busy lifestyle. And again, they're actionable steps that you can implement. This challenge is for anybody, or who is this challenge for? It's really for anybody who is really focused on improving their metabolic. who is focused on improving their metabolic health. So whether or not you have weight to lose, or you are someone who, your health, you are seeing signs of poor metabolic health, to include things like hypertension, prediabetes, high cholesterol, PCOS, difficulty losing weight. Those are all signs that you could have some metabolic dysfunction. And if what I'm saying is kind of like what are you talking about, metabolic health? I have created a video on what is metabolic health. So if that topic does pique your interest, please refer to that video after this live. But I do have some information about that. So this challenge is for you. It's for busy individuals who need practical, easy, step-by-step steps to follow and guidance. And if you're struggling with consistency with creating habits and sticking to the habits, this challenge is for you. And again, the goal is not for perfection, it's about progress. And on this channel, on this page, I'm very focused on sustainable, actionable steps to create long-term health, right? So we're creating healthy habits through sustainable approaches. We're not focused on quick fixes because we know what happens with quick fixes. They often don't work, or they set you back even further than where you started. Okay, so I'm gonna go through the outline of what you can expect for each day of the challenge, and then talk about how to get into the challenge if you're interested. So day one, we're gonna be setting your baseline and your goals. So we talked about how planning is so important, meeting yourself where you are. That's why the first day that's the focus. It's setting your baseline. Okay, so with that day, you're gonna be focused on assessing your current status, your current health status. I will have like a simple self-assessment for you to help aid you in this day of the challenge. The self-assessment is there so that you can set realistic goals that are super appropriate to you, where you are right now. So we talk about biomarkers of metabolic health, how you can track those, seeing what those are like if you're someone who does, track those things. We talk about tracking your energy levels, sleep, hydration. It's all included in that first day. And it's about reflecting on where you are so you can establish a baseline and then create a plan to move forward from there. All right, so the day two of the challenge is focused on your metabolic health, balancing blood sugar levels, and nutrition focused on improving metabolic health. All right, so this is where we learn how to design our meals that are geared towards stabilizing blood sugar and providing good sustainable energy throughout the day. You'll be working on building balanced meals. And one of the big things is meal prep. I know that for some people it's like nails on a chalkboard hearing that word. For other people it's like, yes, meal planning, meal prep. I need it, but I need help with it. So that day is focused, that'll all be covered in day two of the challenge. Day three is where we talk about hydration and sleep. Again, those are so important. We talk about how the role that hydration and sleep play in our metabolic health, and ways to improve our intake and sleep hours, and how to track them if that's something that you're interested in doing. Day four is all about movement. Movement is so important. As you have heard, I'm sure, movement is medicine is true. So we talk about designing a movement goals that are in line with you, where you are current state, how different exercises impact our metabolic health, and how different exercises create adaptations in us. And we're able to focus on selecting those workouts based on how we want our bodies to adapt, how we want our bodies to operate. So for someone, for example, with insulin resistance, it's a good idea to focus on movement and physical activity that help increase insulin sensitivity to help reverse insulin resistance. So that's covered in that day, in day four. Day six is all about managing stress and supporting recovery. So we talk about stress reduction techniques, how stress impacts our metabolic health, but also other areas of improving stress and stress reduction when it's possible. Day six is one of a big day. It's really focused on mindset. Of course, mindset is everything. You hear that, but really tapping into that power of community, accountability, spirituality, if that's something that relates to you, but really tapping into that, because like we talked about earlier, motivation waxes and wanes, right? It takes a bit more to get us through those periods when we're in a valley of motivation and needing something to help pull us out of it. The mindset day 6, is really going to help hone in on that specific aspect. All right, and then day 7, is a day to reflect, celebrate, and plan for the future. That is the big goal, is to help get you in line with creating a good plan to move you forward when you're creating your goals for the future. Okay, so I want this challenge to be something that you can come back to later. So in the midst of, of course, being a good setup for helping you plan your health goals for the new year, again, we hit these plateaus and we need these resets from time to time. So I want this challenge to be something that you can refer back to later. So it'll be in a playlist that lives on my channel moving forward outside of the challenge. But for people, how you join the challenge is the next thing. For those who are in my membership community, this is our January challenge. So basically I'm announcing our January challenge. And for anyone else who is here on YouTube who is interested in joining this challenge, please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to create more content that's specific to the challenge and giving details on how to join in the future. This is just more of an announcement of the challenge. So connect with me by subscribing, and then you won't miss when that challenge goes live. But before that, you'll learn how to actually get enrolled or register for the challenge. Okay, so I think that brings me just a little bit over that 30-minute mark, and I'm gonna scroll through and see if there were any questions that popped into the challenge or to the chat. I'm not seeing any. Thank you so much for the compliments. I appreciate that. And I am from United States. Someone asked where you're from. Pacific Northwest, and it is getting cold and gray here, unfortunately. All right, so no questions have come in, so I'm gonna go ahead and conclude this video, and then I will see you all back next Wednesday for Q&A and check-in. All right, until then, bye.